Hey guys, what's up? Today I'm here with my first March weekly wrap-up. I decided I wanted to do weekly wrap-ups to kind of encourage myself to read a bit more and also to get more videos up on my channel because I'm a little bit stagnant right now. And yeah, so I read 3 books this week and I started another, so I'm going to talk about all those today. One of them I actually finished in February since Monday was in February. And I already talked about it in my February wrap-up, but just for the sake of things, I'm going to go ahead and talk about it a little bit more because it was enjoyable. The first book I read this week was The Iron Trial by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare. This is the first book in the Magisterium series, and it's about a little boy who is 12 years old. It's about a young boy named Callum Hunt who has been taught his whole life to fear the Magisterium. When he's 12 or 13, he has to do something called the Iron Trial, where it's basically a test to get into his school, into the Magisterium, and he's been taught to fail it by his father because obviously you wouldn't want to go somewhere that plots to kill you. But of course, inevitably, he ends up getting selected to be a student at the Magisterium, and this book is all about that happening, and it was pretty enjoyable. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, but I do intend on picking up The Copper Gauntlet. Then I picked up The We Free Men by Terry Pratchett. This is the 30th book in the Discworld series, but the first book in the Tiffany Aching side series. This I selected out of my TBR jar this month, so there's 1 of 5 down. I did really enjoy this. I give it a 5 out of 5 stars. It's about a 9-year-old girl named Tiffany Aching who basically gets drawn into this world of magic and mystery and meets these little brownie-like creatures who are 6 inches tall at the highest and covered in blue tattoos and wear kilts, and they're all red-haired, and most of them are men, and they love drinking and cussing and stealing things, but they're very intimidated by her because she is a hag or a witch, and it's really enjoyable to watch her and them interact throughout the story as they try to stop certain events from happening and save her brother from this evil queen, who kind of reminds me of the queen from Narnia, and I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars because it was a little bit slow at times, but I definitely intend on picking up the rest of the series, and hopefully at some point trying to read more of the Discworld series, but I'm going to focus on this series first. I really enjoyed the way magic was presented in this story, because it was presented in such a way where most of the witches that she interacted with were just like, yeah, we can do magic, but it's kind of an unnecessary expense when you can just use your brain to solve problems. And so basically in this world, all the magic that witches do are just knowing common sense. And so Tiffany doesn't use any magic during this story, but she's just so quick-witted that she can figure everything out, and that's what makes her the hag or the witch, which I just found to be incredibly interesting and sends a really good message, I think, that you should solve things on your own. It doesn't take magic, you can do it. And so yeah, I really, really loved this, and I love these covers that they're releasing them in, so I'm really excited to get to the rest of these. And then the final book that I read completely this week was a reread. It was Cress by Marissa Meyer. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars again. I remembered how much I loved it, but I didn't remember what it was like to read this book. This was an incredible experience to reread. I loved it just as much as I did the first time. I hadn't read this in 2.5 years, and so I decided I needed to pick it up and reread it before reading Winter, and I'm so glad I did, because there are definitely things I forgot. It's been so long since I read this that it was definitely almost like reading it for the first time, but there were certain things where I was like, I know that this is gonna happen, and I know that this scene is coming up, and there were points where I almost skipped to scenes that I was so excited for, like the stuff that they had been building up to all along, and I could kind of remember what happened and remembered how much I loved reading those scenes, and it was so hard not to skip to them. But of course there's so much in between that it's just like, you skip one page, you skip one paragraph, and you miss something funny or heartfelt or emotional, and oh my god, these books killed me. So yeah, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars again. I'm really, really excited to finish this series. I have to calm down. I was reading this and grinning like a maniac on the bus, and it actually, for the length, it did not take me long at all to read, which I think it was the same way the first time. And I remember reading this for the first time and I was having to study for a term test at the same time, and somehow that test was one of the hardest tests I've taken in my high school career, and I had to retake it a couple of times, and I still ended up not passing it. But it was all okay because it was to get into a course that I really wanted to take, but I ended up not needing to take, so it was fine. But at the time, I was really invested in passing this test, and within the period of the 3 or 4 days that I was studying for the test, I picked up The Name of the Star by Maureen Johnson, which is now one of my all-time favorite series, the Shades of London series, Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, which I read and then started rereading while still trying to study for this test, and then I picked up Cress and Scarlet. So 4. Scarlet and Cress. That was a horrible decision. 3 years younger me. That was a horrible decision. Anyways, the other book that I picked up, as you can probably guess, was Winter by Marissa Meyer. I'm only 12 pages into this, already loving Winter's perspective. Reading this book is really weird though, because with Cress, this book is like 560 pages long. This book is like 860 pages long, or somewhere around there, I'm not sure exactly what it is. But I went out of town for work this weekend, and I asked my 2 coworkers I was with, I was like, which one of these do you think is longer? And they both picked Cress, because I had both of them with me, and they both picked Cress, and I was like, this book is 300 pages longer than this book. And so reading it is just so strange because the pages are so thin, so you're turning the pages and it feels like you're not doing anything at all, and I don't know why it's so weird, but it's so weird. Anyways, I'm sure flipping the pages being weird won't inhibit me from loving this story, as I'm sure I will. And then I know this was not on my TBR for this month, but I knew that if Cress was on my TBR and I got to Cress, I would go straight through and read Winter right afterward, and then read Stars Above right after that. So TBR, official TBR, kind of paused for the moment. I know I haven't uploaded that, but I did film it, and it will be up tomorrow, hopefully. So yeah, that's what I started. So this is what I read this week. I'm pretty proud of it. I did go out of town for work this weekend, so I didn't really get to read much this weekend, and had a somewhat busy week this week trying to get ready to go out of town for the weekend and not really being able to do any homework while I was doing that. So I'm pretty proud of what I accomplished. I think it's a good start to the month, and I'm really excited to see what the rest of the month has to offer. I do have spring break this month, so that'll be exciting, and hopefully lots of reading will get done then. But thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, keep reading.